We would like to acknowledge the Yuggera people and the Turrbal people as the traditional custodians of Meanjin, the lands on which we record this podcast today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Health of It podcast, a podcast made for healthcare professionals by a nurse on the inside. So my name is Jess Tully and I am the brand ambassador of Healthcare Australia, but also a registered nurse of over 10 years. So this episode is super exciting. If you have ever thought of doing humanitarian work, some kind of charity work, this is the podcast for you. It is definitely something that I have been thinking about over the years, but I think when you Google, like charity work nursing or, volunteer work nursing, you get absolutely bombarded with so many websites. And you want to make sure that, what you're doing and what you're giving back is to the right company and to the right organization. So Mercy Ships is obviously a very, very well-known company. And I thought this would be such a good episode to, interview people who have done Mercy Ships and had their own experiences. So I have interviewed two different people today, and they both have unique experiences with Mercy Ship and the reasons why they do it. So first up, we've got Jono. Jono I met at a Krana conference just recently this year. And, he is a full-time worker. He is a father. He is a husband. He has quite a busy life, but he likes to dedicate, once a year to Mercy Ships and go over and, give back and kind of make a difference, in those communities over in Africa with Mercy Ships. And it's incredible. He's so passionate. And then we've also got Abby, and Abby has done so many. She's going on her 8th trip. She is a single gal who can actually go for quite lengthy periods of time, 4-month contracts, for example, and really give back to those communities and give a big chunk of not only her time, but just, her career and her professional life as well. So we've got two different views, which I think is really interesting. So first up in the podcast will be Jono, and then we're going to transition over to Abby to talk about her experience as well. So if you want information as well, just head on to Mercy Ships, their website. It's just, such a unique experience, I think. And it obviously takes a lot of time and organization and a bit of financial pressure as well on yourself, but there is fundraising opportunities, which we talk about in the episode. So enjoy and make sure to give us a review if you like the episode. Bye, guys. All right, everybody, I have the absolute legend of a man named Jono. Now, I met Jono a few weeks ago actually at the Krana conference, and straight away, this guy had so much passion, and not only about nursing, but about his time and dedication to Mercy Ships. So I thought this guy absolutely needs to come on the podcast on For the Health of It, and he is the perfect one to talk to about, the whole venture of getting into Mercy Ships. It's something that I've always been curious about in my 10 years of nursing, but this is the guy who's going to answer all our questions, and I'm so excited. So a huge welcome on For the Health of It podcast to Jono. Say hi.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and absolutely stoked.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to meet you the other week and to have a dance.
We did. We hit the deep floor. We had a lot of fun.
We did. We just wiped that floor clean, I believe.
Oh, we absolutely did. And it was so great because we got to chat heaps about Mercy Ships, and that's why at the end of the night, before we left the conference, I was like, Jono, you need to come on the podcast. We need to talk about it. So I'm so glad we've made it work. You're a busy man, but thank you so much. I would love to dive in a little bit, because you're so passionate about nursing as well. Give me a rundown on your nursing career and kind of how you were exposed and kind of went down the path of doing heaps of Mercy Ship work as well. Take it away, Jono.
A friend of mine back in 2017, a friend of mine and I were out having lunch, and we were both talking about, what we'd like to do. And he was like, I've always thought about the hospital ship, and I'm like, me too. And of course, one thing led to another. We made some inquiries, did some searching, and went through the motions of applying. And in 2018, we both served for the first time in Cameroon. So I went, we had 2 weeks in Cameroon, and that was fantastic, aboard the Africa Mercy. I went back in 2019 and went up to Conakry, I believe that's how you pronounce it correctly, up in Guinea, further up the coast in West Africa. And then I went for 3 weeks that time. And then in 2020, we were both going to go back, and 3 days shy of myself flying out, they cancelled the service due to the impending pandemic.
Yes.
So that really, and then of course, we were all up in the air thinking, well, during lockdowns and everything, are we ever going to get back? Yeah. So then last year I went back and finally got to go back to Senegal, and that was aboard the Africa Mercy. And then I went this year again when the new ship, the Global Mercy, was in port to Senegal again.
Incredible. So good. So if you had to explain kind of what Mercy Ship is to somebody who has absolutely no idea, how would you describe it? How would you explain?
It's an organisation that they use hospital ships as a platform of delivery, and what they do is they will sail into a country and spend 10 months of the year providing not only free life-saving surgery, but also medical capacity building. So training of some of their doctors, nurses, and medical staff locally to bolster the infrastructure, basically. But they not only do that, they'll also help rebuild or renovate, health facilities. The main goal of Mercy Ships is obviously to leave a country better off than when they found it, and it just doesn't stop there, because they have this model of care, which is like a 3-pronged or a 4-pronged approach. So they obviously there's follow-up afterwards, making sure that the training is ongoing and that everything is still okay.
So it's constantly just giving back to those countries that don't have what we have, and just constantly giving back. And it's built mainly on charity, and it's a big charity organization, isn't it? So how does it keep up? How does it keep going? How does it get suppliers? How does it get people to come? Because it's all charity based. It's not like a paid work position.
No. So, okay. So they philanthropy and obviously companies, and governments, contributing financially, but then they'll have, companies donating time and parts and other things in the upkeep.
Yeah.
And obviously with volunteers, well, now they have the 2 ships. The 2 ships are there. So they have the Global Mercy and the Africa Mercy. And of course we get volunteers. Well, the Africa Mercy needs about 1,100 volunteers or 1,200 volunteers a year.
Yep.
They have about 450 on board at any one time. And now those volunteers can be from anything from deckhands, doctors, nurses, cooks, cleaners, captain of the ship, administration, there's everything. So when the Global Mercy came on board, they need double the number.
I need to get the message out there that they're needing people. I guess
they are.
Let's run through the onboarding process then. So if someone's interested and they think, wow, this seems like an amazing opportunity to give back, and they've got some time up their sleeve, what's the actual onboarding process?
Okay, so normally you go online to mercyships.com. That's one way.
Mhm.
And Melissa Mason is our HR administration contact up there, and she would only be too happy to hear from anybody. There are a couple of others in the office that would also be able to help with any questions or the process.
You're still uploading a CV.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you still have reference checks.
Yeah,
how much
reference
experience
checks.
do you need before applying for something like this?
Well, if I'm correct, the theatre, for example, they like you to have minimum 2 years experience in your, in the specialties. They have a certain, obviously there are certain procedures and that they do. But yeah, 2 years experience. Postgrad would be good, but I think, if you don't have that, but you've got more years of experience, I think that sort of, is negotiable the other way. But
So
certainly, and not only that, obviously you'll go through a medical, like anything, a medical, vaccinations. There are a lot of vaccinations that are required.
If the ship is, say, on board somewhere in Africa,
Yep.
your role is to get to the ship. So you can either fundraise, you can either choose to go in a fundraising path, or you can pay yourself and actually go there.
Yes.
I was chatting to Abby as well, and she was mentioning that usually you do have like a fee that you pay to be on board the ship to help with, like, cleaning and your food and just the upkeep of the ship. So you pay for that as well as the flights, but then you're giving your time as, say, a registered nurse or a doctor or a cleaner or whatever. You're giving your time and you do a normal full-time roster.
We all work hard.
Yeah.
Some days can be, a little shorter than others. Others can be a little longer.
Okay.
And like with any job here in Australia or wherever in the world, there's an expectation that you'll partake with some on-call, but that is only in case they need to bring a patient back to theatre.
Yeah.
Or there's an emergency. It's not like a routine thing.
So run me through a day of you being on the ship. All right. So you've rocked up. You're in Africa. You get on the Mercy ship. Yeah. I'm guessing the community on the ship would be pretty extraordinary, because that's why everyone's chosen to be there and give their.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the people you meet are pretty amazing.
Oh, look, they are. So a general day. So we'll start off. Monday morning is the best.
Yep.
Because every Monday morning they have their community meeting. Everybody attends the community meeting. And usually you'll have like the ship captain get up and give a bit of a spiel and some housekeeping. You'll have the ship security also get up and, give a bit of security notice on what's going on in and around the city and around the dock, whether there's areas around the city or just out where people might be going if they've got a weekend off. And so it is really good. The camaraderie is great. Yeah. Everyone's well supported. And, all I can say is that when you go with an open mind. Mm-hmm. Don't have any expectations and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
And mark my word, when you leave for the first time, it's like something's changed. There's been you'll be a different person. Yeah. And you'll definitely need a couple of days to sort of process everything that you've seen, done. It's certainly each time I go with excitement. And when I leave, I sit on the tarmac on the plane, ready to leave to come home. And I just think, wow, it's already gone. Why do I have to go? And I always find that first few days when I come home a little difficult. It's that little bit of a culture shock, little bit of a change. And certainly when I head back to work, I always get frustrated. Well, I used to get frustrated when I had a difficult patient, because I'd be thinking, man, if you had been where I've just been for the last couple of weeks, you would be so thankful.
Yeah,
So,
we have
so
it
thankful.
so good here, don't we? And sometimes
we do.
they don't realize until you've actually witnessed and seen, I guess, how some people do live and survive. They just survive every single day.
The thing that I suppose pulls on my heartstrings each and every time I go is that you'll see kids in the street and they're stoned, they're unpaid, there's rubbish everywhere, kicking their soccer ball, disfigurations, might have a tumour, might have, bowed legs, might have whatever. But through it all, through the adversity, they still manage to smile. They still manage to... I love, what I do love when I go there is going for a walk of an evening around the streets. And a lot of people would say, oh, you shouldn't do that. But I've never once felt not safe. There have been a couple of times I suppose, felt uneasy, but I've never felt not safe, and I've always felt welcomed. But what I love is you'll be walking up the street and you'll have half a dozen kids running up the other side of the road. And in their own language, they're pointing out and giggling and laughing and going, white man, white man, white man, as you're running up the street and you run across the road, high-fiving. That's all they want.
Yeah.
The one experience that I will never forget is the one that I had in Conakry, in Conakry in Guinea. I went out walking and I walked across the road. There were, half a dozen kids. There was the women were cooking on the side. They had their houses there, but they were cooking. They had their fires going, and a couple of them were cleaning. The men were playing cards on the table. And the kids came up to me and I'm high-fiving. Next thing, one of the mothers came up. And of course, I've taken my ID out and I'm with Mercy Ships. And she's like, oh, Mercy Ships, in her own language. Next thing, she's called out. Next thing, obviously, to the kids. Next thing, I've got 20 kids, not half a dozen, 20 of the local kids running around me. I had this girl of about maybe 8 pulling on my T-shirt with this wooden platform like this, popped it on the ground and she's pointing. And I said, oh, you want me to stand? No, sit. So there I am, crouched, sit. Next thing, I've got these 20 kids around me and the mum's talking in her own language to the kids. They start singing and dancing and clapping, and I'm like, what are they saying? Because they're singing in their own language. And she's saying, we love you. God loves you. Mercy Ship, we're thankful for Mercy Ships. We're, thankful for everything you do. Now, those that know me know I'm a pretty sensitive sort of bloke, and it doesn't take much to get a bit of the eyes watering. And, after about 10 minutes of this, I was like overwhelmed, overcome, and I thought, I've got to go. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go. And the kids are like, no. I said, yeah, I've got to go. But when I did get up, the kids, they just, big hug. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There's always one child of about 2 or 3 that's hiding behind the older sibling, too scared to come out. Well, this little one, comes up to me, puts her hand out. I high-five. I put my hand out to return. She high-fives me and then runs like anything. It was so cheeky and funny, and all the kids are having a giggle and laugh.
And they'll always remember meeting you as well. Absolutely.
Sorry, I could go on.
No, I think it's so beautiful. I think going into a country like that, and just seeing how they live. Like, they've literally got nothing. They've got nothing, but yet you're right. They're smiling, they're thankful, they're grateful, and they're so friendly.
There's a great surgeon by the name of David Chong, who comes from Melbourne.
Okay.
And he actually not only volunteers with Mercy Ships, but he also does a lot of work with Operation Smile, which is another organisation.
I've heard about that one. Yep.
So look, but David Chong is fantastic. He does a lot of the cleft lip, cleft palate, and reconstructive work. And I tell you, he is a master. I've seen a lot of his before and after photos, and you would not know that he's ever been there. It is just amazing. The other absolute legend on that ship is Dr. Gary Parker. Now, Dr. Gary Parker comes from Seattle. He has given, well over 38 years, maybe 40 years of his working career, had his family, his kids have grown up. He's very well loved and respected by everybody that's ever gone. What I do want to say is the last couple of times when I've worked with him, I've actually said to him when he's spoken to me and during the procedures, theatre, and I've said to him, I said, Gary, I still pinch myself to wonder what I have done in life to deserve such a privilege to be able to work at the table with people like yourself. And so to be where I am now in life and to have these opportunities is just amazing. And I still get goosebumps, talking about it, because it's an absolute, but I call it my little piece in the puzzle. So I'm the piece in the puzzle, and I have my own little hashtag piece in the puzzle.
Well, I absolutely love the passion that comes out of you. Obviously, I saw it at the conference when I met you, not only to do with nursing, but to do with this passion of mercyship. So you were just perfect to speak to today. And I can't wait to follow your adventures as well. Madagascar next year. Like, I can just see you doing this every single year for the remaining part of your career for sure. So good on you. I think it's incredible what you're doing. Incredible.
Thank you, Jess. I hope that I can do it for as long as I can. Look, it is, and it does take the other side of the coin too. Is I would love to go longer, but of course there's that other commitment of family and work. And I know when I go away, and I know this it's not to sound ungrateful, but it's time that I'll never get back the other way. But at the end of the day, when my time goes, or I'm sitting there in my retirement years, I'll know that I've done exactly what I was asked to do and what I was led to do, and that is to be, to give. And I'd like to make, contribute, I suppose, a bit of a lasting legacy in someone else's life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I do it.
Beautiful.
Yep.
I love that. Thank you so much. You were absolutely
Thank you.
Just so incredible, and you spoke from the heart, and you shared some really, incredible stories. So thank you so much. And thank you for just sharing with us today.
Thank you very much.
Hey guys, just interrupting the episode to let you know that we have just finished part 1 where Jono was guest speaking on the Mercyship episode. Now we're going to go to part 2, which is where Abby talks about her journey with Mercyship. Enjoy! All right, everybody. So I have the gorgeous Abby with me today, who reached out to me on social media to chat about Mercyships, which got me so excited because this is a topic that I have always wanted to kind of dive into. I've always heard of Mercyships over my career of being a nurse over the last 10 years, but I didn't know anyone that was close to me, or I've never met anyone that's actually done a Mercyship kind of placement. So this is going to be the perfect episode to answer all those questions. So a big introduction to Abby on For the Health of It podcast. Say hello, Abby.
Hi guys, nice to be here. Nice to come and talk to Jess and you all about Mercy Ships. Yeah, I'm keen to kind of spread the word and like let everyone have a bit of a view behind the scenes from someone that's actually been there. So
That's so
yeah.
great. Thank you so much for this. So we had a little pre-chat before, and you actually mentioned that you're about to embark on your 8th Mercy Ship placement, which is unreal. Like, way to go. Congratulations. So you obviously are an expert and you're the perfect one to talk about this. So how did you first find out about Mercy Ships? Kind of like run me through like kind of your career of being a nurse and then kind of how you got exposed to Mercy Ships.
Yeah, well, I actually got heard about mentorships even like long before I was even a nurse. So I actually heard about mentorships when I was a teenager. I went to like youth group, and one of my youth group leaders went to sort of do some mission work with an organization called Youth with a Mission. And when he came back from that, he gave me a book to read, and it was written by the founder of Youth with a Mission. And so I first read about mentorships in that book. And then ever since then, I was like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But I didn't even really know that I wanted to be a nurse at that point. But kind of like always knew that I wanted to do something that would like be helping people kind of less advantaged. Like I always had that kind of I guess like urge to help people that weren't as advantageous the way that I grew up, or that kind of thing. So like that just kind of, when I read about mentorships and that whole kind of like going out and helping people that can't afford surgeries and something like that, that really just kind of I guess like stood out to me. And I was like, oh wow, that'd be amazing to be a part of that in some capacity. Obviously after I started nursing, and then in the back of my mind mentorships had always been there. So then it was just a matter of I'd looked into it, and I knew the ship had certain you have to have like 2 years experience in your specialty before you can apply for Mercy Ships. So whether you're a ward nurse or like, you specialize like in, say for OR example, operating theatre, or like ED, whatever specialty you apply for a job in Mercy Ships, you have to have 2 years experience in that. Mercy Ships is a surgical ship, so that's like brilliant. It's perfect. So then once I went into theatres, I had to do 2 years in that department to get my experience. And then as soon as I did that, I applied for Mercy Ships. So my first trip was in 2014, and I went to Congo for 3 weeks. So I kind of was a bit cautious at the beginning and just did a shorter stint. In the ship, different departments have different time lengths of like minimum time commitments. So like theatre nursing is kind of very much the same in every country and all around the world. So I think the ward nurse's minimum time commitment is now like 8 weeks, whereas theatres is only 2 weeks, which is really good. So like for like flexibility wise, also like you don't have to take a whole bunch of time off work if you can't get the time off work. You can use your annual leave, so you're still getting your pay, that kind of thing, because it's volunteer work, obviously. So that first trip was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm gonna try and keep coming here as much as I can. So, that 2014 was my first trip, and then I went 2015 again. I went 6 weeks a second time to Madagascar. Loved that so much that I ended up signing up for like 4 months, I think, to Mada too, because we went to Madagascar twice. Usually the ship would be based in West African countries because they are the kind of poorer nations that really need it, and they invite us to come. So everything has to be done very much like by the book. They have to get invited by the Ministry of Health and the government into the country. So it's all done very close, like working very closely with the government there. So like basically the way that the ship's set up is that we have on the ship we have like the five 6 operating theatres. Then we have like 4 to 5 wards with about 30 beds each, that when the patients need to be in a hospital, they're there. Some of our patients need to be in hospital for quite long, but then now we have like a step down unit, which is called the low care unit, which is like basically when patients don't need to be in hospital as such, but they need to go to appointments for like physio or like hand, like occupational therapy, like hand therapists, that kind of thing. They can just come to their like stay in the low care unit, which is more like kind of like a boarding house, not like a hospital, but then just come back for their appointments. On the Africa Mercy is a smaller ship, so we actually have what they same as the Global Mercy. We have what's called a hospital extension centre, which is on the land where patients come before their surgeries and they come and stay there to have their pre-op appointments and all that kind of stuff. And that's not staffed by medical staff. That's just staffed by like facilitators for the Hope Centre that they're not necessarily medically trained, because by that point where they're there, they don't need acute care. They just need to come back to the ship for their appointments and stuff like that. So, so there's, as well as a lot of need for hospital trained staff. There's also need for untrained, like not medically trained staff as well, volunteers, as well as the hospital side of things. On the ship, you've also got like what it needs to run a ship. So, which is kind of, weird, but it means that there's a lot of opportunities for other skilled staff like engineers, officers for the ship, because even though we're not sailing that much, because the ship is always docked, we sail twice a year, but the ship still has to run as a ship and it still has to meet the safety standards of a ship. So we've got officers on board, we've got a captain on board, you've got engineers and all that kind of stuff, and then you've got all the other aspects of the ship that need running, like galley staff, dining room staff, housekeeping staff, because all the crew stays on board.
I'm excited for your 8th trip. I think it's going to be amazing. I think what you're doing and giving back to, people that are less fortunate and that are living in these conditions, and you're literally changing their lives, and what you're doing with your career is absolutely incredible. It's definitely inspired me. I've wanted to do some kind of humanitarian work for so long now, and it can be a really scary process when you're trying to look, because there's so many different sites out there and then you don't really know what you're putting your money towards, for example. So hearing somebody who's done it themselves, who's done it for so many years is just so awesome and so inspiring. So thank you so much.
That's right. I think just to reassure anyone that's sort of listening to this and kind of tossing up whether they want to do something like this, I think with Mercy ships, the great thing about it is that it's really safe. The ship's very secure. They have a security team on board. You can't get on unless you have your scan your ID card. They've got like security at the gate. You're always sort of in a port that has exterior security as well. And then also it's like the good thing about Mercy ships is that it's a Western standard hospital that we can take anywhere. So like if people have hesitations when they think going to work in local hospitals, like what's the standard going to be like? Am I going to have to be like, are they going to have enough supplies? Are they going to have, are they doing surgeries on people with not enough anesthesia because they don't have it? Like Mercy ships are very well supplied. Like they've got like so many donors in like medical companies and stuff that donate their supplies and all this kind of stuff. So like honestly, the standard of care that we give and the standard of like the equipment that we have, like it's all up to date. It's all and so like it's reassuring in the fact that you can know that you can come to a hospital, even though it's in Africa, it's to a standard of what we're used to in the Western world. I get so much out of going to the ship. Like I learned so much. Like one of the main things about going there is that you see cases you would never see anywhere in Australia, and you learn so much, and you get to sort of become like at home in the OR. You will have patients come in, you do their surgery, you never see them again, whereas on the ship you can go to the ward, you can get to know the patients a bit, you can hear their stories, and like I don't know, they're so grateful as well. You just like get so much out of it. I get more from going there than what I feel like I give, to be honest. So, that's what keeps me going back. Sometimes you get a bit disillusioned with work here in Australia, or the craziness of it, and it's so demanding and everything like that. And sometimes you feel like patients are a bit too entitled or whatever. But then when you get a bit like over it all, and then I go back to the ship, and I was like, it just, I don't know, it fills my cup a little bit. So a lot, actually, it fills my cup. So yeah, that's why I keep going back.
Oh, well, you've definitely gotten me inspired, that's for sure. You got the fire in the belly. Thank you so much.
Good.
Now you go and enjoy your holiday, because you deserve it, because you've got a very busy end of your year, because you're going on your 8th trip. So you need this holiday to rest and rewind, and for rest and unwind, I mean, and then get back into it and start changing lives. So you enjoy every moment.
Oh, thank you so much for giving me the chance to chat about it. And hopefully if anyone's interested, they can get in touch with recruitment and go for it.
Awesome. I'm sure they definitely will after this episode.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. Right. I appreciate it. Enjoy your holiday.
Thanks, Jess.
And I'll definitely chat to you soon.
Okay, cool. Bye.
Right. Bye, guys.